been nights where we just laid down for the night and heard a loud bang on the side of our house and on the wall behind our bed as well. It was so loud that I would jump up and look out the window. Our floodlight had come on too, but I could see nothing. Now the weird part about this is our bedroom sits about 12 feet from the ground level, as we have a full-size basement that's cinder block. I put on my slippers and grabbed one of my 12-gauge shotguns and walked outside to investigate. It was dead silent again. The floodlight that's on the side of the house had clicked off at this point, so I walked over to the end of the deck and shined my light around the yard. There was nothing. I walked around the house and shined the light around there intently. As I approached the back side of the house, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It felt like someone was watching me. I shined the light up in the trees, but again, nothing. I rounded the corner and the first thing I noticed was that my 3 dogs were in the area, and they weren't making a peep. Now our dogs have no filter and will bark at anyone and everyone, including me. So to see them all hiding with their tails between their legs, not making a sound, really had me worried. As I kept walking, all of a sudden, the crickets and the frogs started making sounds again. It was as if someone had clicked a switch. I walked back into the house and told my wife I hadn't seen anything. She shrugged and said, "Okay, as long as our dogs are alright." Due to the circumstances that night, I decided to let the dogs in and sleep with us. This very same thing had happened on all 4 exterior walls of our house. It's random and annoying, but just like this instance every time, there's nothing going on outside. There have also been times where we were sitting in the house, and as I was watching a movie, my wife would walk over to me and say, "Did you call me?" I said, "No." And she said she swears she heard me call her name in her ear. She said it was definitely my voice, but she didn't understand because it sounded so close, and I was a good 20 feet away in my recliner. The important part to this was that she was sitting at the table doing something, and the slider to the backyard was open behind her. Now our back patio sits about 20 feet off the ground, and it's like a balcony as it has no staircase access outside. I think the previous owner built it for barbecuing, but I'm not too sure. There have been several instances where she would say she heard someone whisper in her ear, but she couldn't make out the sound. Again, I kept thinking she was going crazy, but as you will see, I think all of this is tied into the final moment where things are revealed. The last thing I want to mention before we get into what happened is that I have a shooting range built behind my workshop on opposite sides of our property next to the main road. It's kind of a downward slope, but it works perfectly for what I need it for. The range itself is cut straight into the woods, going down about 100 yards or so. When you're at the downrange, you have woods surrounding you on all sides, except back up to my shop. I have to say, it always felt creepy when I was dealing with my targets or mowing. When you're down there, it feels like you're miles from anyone. One day around 5 in the evening, I was sighting in a new rifle scope. The sun was still up, but it was starting to fade. I knew this was going to be the final test. Up until this point, nothing really happened while I was making my multiple trips downrange, other than the feeling of uneasiness. As I got downrange, I kept getting this feeling like someone or something was watching me. I looked around but didn't see anything. As I was placing stickers over my previous shots, I heard something big off to the side of me. It sounded like a large branch had snapped off a tree. Now if you've been in Tennessee woods, you know a lot of branches fall off trees randomly out of nowhere, so it's really nothing new. Except this time, it was incredibly loud and sounded like fresh, strong wood, if that makes any sense. I turned and looked again, but couldn't see anything. I started walking back up to my rifle, and I swear I heard someone right behind me. I turned around, but again saw nothing. As I started to walk again, I heard this deep growl. It was really deep and loud, and what's worse is that it was all around me. I turned around facing the range and started walking backwards. The thought of some rabid dog charging out of the bushes had me freaked out, so running wasn't a good idea. I slowly walked backwards up the hill to my rifle, but nothing happened. I grabbed my rifle and sprayed the target with rapid fire, hoping to scare off whatever was stalking me. I left 10 rounds in the mag and grabbed my rifle bag and quickly walked to the house. I never told my wife about this because I didn't want to freak her out. I would think that's the right thing to do. My wife had heard all these noises and all this stuff going on with me talking to her but me not being there. I didn't want to accentuate the situation, if that makes sense. It was difficult for me to hide this information from my wife, but I knew that if I did tell her, maybe she would just go even more crazy than she already was. Part of me thought that I was going crazy too, so hiding was the only thing I could do. But after all of this went down, that's when things really started to pick up. Fast forward about a year later from when we moved in, and my niece is staying with us as a live-in nanny to earn money over summer break from college. We were on our way back from the store, and about a mile from our house, I saw 2 eyes reflecting in the headlights, coming from a wide tree on the side of the road. It caught my attention because they were higher than a deer, but a different color and size. Just as I'd said, "What is that?" I squinted, and they vanished. I'd made a comment that it was almost as if it had known I could see its eyes, and it moved. The color was kind of a golden green, but they resembled the mannerism of a large cat as they felt ominous. It's hard to explain, but I shrugged it off as we were passing the tree and then saw nothing again. A few moments later, we arrived at the house. As we were getting bags out of the car, my 3-year-old son came bolting out of the house, excited to see me. As I was waiting to help her carry in her bags, I heard my dog growl. I looked up in the direction she was looking at, and it was towards my neighbor's property across the street. Now what I saw has kept me up all night. Up until this point, I've always been skeptical as I'd never seen anything with my own 2 eyes. Even with what had happened to me the year prior, I still had my doubts it was just my mind playing tricks on me. Now my street is kind of a spread out neighborhood. Each house sits on several acres, and at the end of our road is Kentucky Lake. My neighbor's house sits adjacent to my house on about an acre lot. Directly in front of my house is a wall of woods, and directly behind my house is several thousand acres of untouched forest. As I was looking across the street to my neighbor's property, I saw a large, dark figure between the trees at first. The movement caught me off guard as it looked like something big, moving quickly on all fours. Then when it came out into clear view, it stood up and walked like a man. At first I didn't know what to make of it. It was very tall, but it was strange because the distance it covered was way too large to be a normal man. The fact that when it was in front of the shed, I swear I could see through it. It was clearly walking quickly, but moving faster than any person could sprint. More importantly, there was no sound at all. It was like it was phasing in and out of reality as it moved. I said, "What the hell is that?" and realized that it was looking directly at us. It had moved at an angle away from us to minimize its time out in the open. It moved as quickly as it could while somehow still staying silent. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I realized that whatever it was stalking us. I told my niece, "Get in the house now," and I grabbed my son and booked it inside. I grabbed my weapon with a short scope and came back outside to see my niece still grabbing stuff out of the car.